Was pizza really ordered around midnight on November 12th, 2022? Or was the Venmo transaction from much earlier? Let's take a listen and delve into it.
This one is Xana's. Do you see how it also says 8-day right here? And do you notice the company name right here? Domino's. Domino's. So, 8-day, meaning the 12th, not the 13th, so not after midnight, just before midnight, to be 8-day, at the time that Conspiracy is recording this. They ordered Domino's before midnight to King Road. The conversation that Jeff and Kara had between each other, it happened and it was accurate.
Okay, I'm going to disagree. I do agree that the pizza was ordered before midnight. So before midnight on November 13th, but I believe it was ordered way earlier. And I will use these Venmo transactions to show you how. And I will be using the screenshots from Conspiracy's video because I figured out, I believe, the 24-hour timeline of when that pizza transaction took place. And I also believe that this transaction information that somebody posted on Reddit is correct. Now, unfortunately, we cannot look at it now to see if it was correct just because all of Xana's transactions have now been hidden. But I do believe this November 11th at 10:51 p.m. is correct. My second clue that I believe the pizza transaction happened much earlier was because of this. If you notice, it says Ethan Chapin paid Jack Katovich, and that transaction was on November 12th. But when Conspiracy looked at it, it shows it was 7 days prior. And Ethan paying Kaylee under the was also on November 12th, but if you look, it shows 8 days prior. So why the discrepancy? Well, I will show you why it's doing that. Okay, so you can see that Ethan paid Kaylee at 2:10 p.m. on November 12th, 2022. And you can also see that he paid Jack Katovich at 11:40 p.m. also on 11/12/2022. But Kaylee's transaction shows 8 days prior. Jack's shows 7 days prior. The answer lies with when Conspiracy was looking at the transactions. You see up in the top left corner, it shows she was looking at that at 3:50. I'm going to assume that was 3:50 p.m. So that means any transactions that she was looking at that took place before 3:50 p.m. on November 12th, 2022 would show 8 days prior, and any transactions that took place after 3:50 p.m. on November 12th, 2022 would show 7 days prior because it's going on a full 24-hour cycle. So once again, this was 2:10 p.m. November 12th, but it showed up to Conspiracy as 8 days prior. And this was 11:40 p.m. on November 12th, but it showed up to Conspiracy when she looked at it on November 20th as being only 7 days prior. And if when you look at Xana's profile, you can see that she looked at it at 5:43 p.m. on November 20th, 2022. And it's also showing the 8 days for that transaction on Xana's. Now that would just mean that it was done before 5:43 p.m. on 11/12/2022. But because she looked at Ethan's profile earlier, we know that the pizza transaction was done at least at 3:50 p.m. or sooner on November 12th, 2022. So the reason why it was showing 7 days prior for the Katovich transaction was because it was at 11:40 p.m. at night on November 12th, 2022, and Conspiracy was looking at Ethan's information at 3:50 p.m. on November 20th, 2022. So any transactions after 3:50 p.m. would have shown as only 7 days prior and not 8 days prior. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to sum it up for you again, though, real quickly. So in summary, when Conspiracy looked at Ethan's transactions, it was at 3:50 p.m. on November 20th, 2022. Any transaction that happened before 3:50 p.m. on November 12th, 2022 would show up as 8 days prior. Any transaction happening after 3:50 p.m. on November 12th, 2022 would show up on her screen as 7 days prior. That means that the pizza transaction occurred sometime between 3:50 p.m. on November 11th, 2022 and 3:50 p.m. on November 12th, 2022, because Venmo goes on these 24-hour cycles as to when it changes it to another day prior. This leads me to believe that this person's comment that when they clicked on the transaction, it showed Friday 11/11 at 10:51 p.m. is correct. We know that they had an after party at the house after the Pi Phi formal on November 11th. We know a lot of pizza boxes were outside. I believe the pizza was ordered on November 11th. I don't believe it was ordered on November 12th.